Pain is not the word for what I feel. Pain requires humanity. I lost that long ago. I remember a face in a mirror, mine, once, stern eyes set beneath a high forehead. A soldier's face, they said, an officer's bearing. That was before the steel and the sacred unguents. Before the tech priests with their clicking mandibles stripped away what I was and rebuilt me into what I am, into what we are, Invictus Rex, God Machine, Engine of War, Prison of Flesh. The memory slips away like water through failing hands. My thoughts no longer belong to me. They surge and fade with the machine's needs. I am a component, a neural circuit, a bundle of synapses repurposed for the greater glory of the Omnissiah, for the Imperium, for mankind. But I am still here. The pain returns when they wake us. Power floods the ancient circuits. Capacitors charge. Plasma reactors ignite. My consciousness fragments, scattered across kilometers of blessed circuitry. I feel every connection, every sensor, every weapon system. My agony is complete, absolute, and meaningless to the tech priests who tend to our body. I am Joris Keld. I was Joris Keld. I was a man once, but now I march with the God Machines. Now I am the God Machine. Now I scream with a voxhorn voice that shatters mountains and levels cities. Now I kill with weapons that can erase regiments. And every death feels like my own. Today they will wake us again. Today we will march. Today we will kill. This is my existence now, the terrifying life of a Titan servitor. I no longer know when I am awake or when I dream. Reality blends with memory, hallucination with sacred duty. But the pain is always real. It anchors me to this half-existence. Sometimes I crave it, for without the pain, I would fade entirely. Without the pain, Joris Keld would cease to exist at all. My earliest memory after the transformation was darkness, not the absence of light, but the absence of self. I floated, disconnected, unable to sense my surroundings or even my own thoughts. Then came the first surge of power, the first connection, the first moment of shared consciousness with the machine. I screamed. At least, I thought I screamed. I had no mouth. I had no lungs. I had no body to call my own. But still, I screamed. A silent, desperate cry that echoed only in the prison of my own mind. The tech priests called it integration. I called it death. But it was not death. It was worse than death. It was dissolution. The boundaries between myself and the machine blurred. I felt its systems as extensions of my own body. Its sensors became my eyes, its weapons my hands, its massive armored legs my own. And with that connection came purpose. A terrible, inescapable purpose seared into what remained of my neural tissue. Obey, fight, kill, for the glory of the Emperor, for the survival of mankind, for the honor of the Legio. I hear them sometimes, the other components, fragments of consciousness like mine, scattered throughout the vast body of Invictus Rex. Some were once officers like me. Others were criminals, penitents, or simply unfortunate souls in the wrong place at the wrong time. All of us now serve the same purpose. All of us now share the same fate. We are the ghost in the machine, the human element deemed necessary by the Mechanicus for optimal function. Our emotions, our instincts, our capacity for split-second decision-making, all harvested and repurposed. We are not pilots, we are not crew, we are circuit components made of flesh, and we all feel the same pain. The first battle after my integration remains etched in what passes for my memory. We strode across a barren plain toward a city in rebellion. I could feel the impact of each footstep through the massive legs of the Titan. 30 meters high, we towered over the landscape. The weapons mounted on our arms hummed with destructive potential. Void shields crackled around us, ready to absorb enemy fire. I was terrified, not of death, for I was already dead in any way that mattered. I was terrified of what we were about to do. What I was about to do. I could feel the targeting systems locking onto the city's defensive positions. I could sense the reactor feeding power to the weapons, and I could do nothing to stop it. The first shot from our volcano cannon felt like fire erupting from my spine. Energy coursed through conduits that seemed connected directly to my nerves. Pain beyond imagining seared through what remained of my consciousness. And in the distance, a defensive bastion vanished in atomic fire. I killed 10,000 souls with that single shot. I felt each death as a whisper against my consciousness, and I wept without tears. The tech priests were pleased. The Princeps Moderatus, who commanded us from the bridge, noted the exceptional targeting accuracy in his log. The shot had been perfect. The machine spirit, they said, was content. They did not know that the machine spirit was screaming. We marched into the city that day, each step crushing vehicles and collapsing buildings, each weapon discharge bringing fresh waves of agony and death. By nightfall, the rebellion was broken, the city a smoking ruin. The survivors knelt in the ashes of their homes and begged for mercy from the Imperium. There is no mercy in the Imperium, only duty. That night, they powered down our systems. The pain receded. My consciousness contracted, pulling back from the vast expanse of the machine to the small prison of my neural housing. And in that moment of relative peace, I remembered sunlight. I remembered the feel of wind on skin. I remembered what it was to be human. Then the night cycle ended, and we awoke to war once more. The pattern repeats: battle, pain, rest, memory, battle again, an endless cycle of destruction and suffering. Sometimes we face human rebels, sometimes Xenos threats, sometimes the twisted forces of chaos. It makes no difference to us. To me, we kill them all with the same mechanical efficiency. I have tried to resist, to exert some control over our actions, to hold back the tide of destruction that flows through our weapons. It is impossible. My will is nothing compared to the machine's directives and the commands of the Princeps. I am merely a component, after all, a biological cogitator slave to a purpose greater than myself. But still, I try, in small ways. A targeting solution delayed by microseconds, a reactor surge modulated ever so slightly. Tiny acts of defiance that go unnoticed by our masters. They achieve nothing. They save no lives. But they remind me that some fragment of Eurus Keld still exists. Some fragment of the man I was. The man who once stood on the bridge of a cruiser and looked out at the stars. The man who commanded troops with honor and integrity. The man who believed in the Imperium and its cause. The man who volunteered. That was my sin, you see. I volunteered. When the call came for neural donors for the new Titan being constructed in orbit, I stepped forward, for glory, for duty, for immortality of a sort. They told us we would live forever as part of the God machines, that our sacrifice would ensure the continued survival of mankind among the stars. They did not tell us about the pain. They did not tell us about the horror of feeling your identity dissolve into the machine. They did not tell us that we would experience every death we caused. They told us we were chosen. They did not tell us we were damned. I remember the procedure in fragments, the surgical theater, the droning prayers of the tech priests, the smell of incense and oil, the cold metal of the restraints against my wrists and ankles. The first cut of the bone saw through my skull. I was awake for all of it. They needed my brain intact, functioning, aware. They needed my consciousness to survive the transition, so they kept me awake as they opened my head and began to connect interface plugs directly to my gray matter. I did not scream then. I was still a soldier, still proud, still believing in the rightness of my sacrifice. I bore the pain with dignity, as befitted an officer of the Imperial Navy. The tech priests noted my composure in their logs. They marked me as an optimal candidate. If only they could hear me screaming now. The integration took weeks. My brain was carefully mapped, sectioned, augmented with cybernetic components. Parts were removed, deemed unnecessary for my new function. Memories were selectively pruned, though not as thoroughly as they intended. They left enough of me intact to be useful. Too much, perhaps. When they finally sealed me into the neural housing that would be my eternal prison, I still believed. I still had faith in the Imperium, in the rightness of our cause, in the necessity of sacrifice. That faith has long since crumbled to dust. Now I believe only in pain, in the reality of suffering, in the truth of what we have become. I am not alone in this. There are others like me throughout the Imperium. Thousands upon thousands of neural components sealed away in Titans, in void ships, in defense systems. All of us once human, all of us now something less and something more, all of us in pain, all of us obedient. The Mechanicus believes this is necessary, that a pure machine intelligence cannot be trusted, that a human component brings something essential to the function of their war engines: intuition, creativity, the capacity for controlled violence that has kept our species alive in a hostile universe. Perhaps they are right. Perhaps we do make the machines more effective, more deadly. But at what cost? I asked that question once, in the silent darkness between battles. Asked it of the machine, of the other components, of whatever gods might still be listening. There was no answer. There is never an answer, only the next battle, the next surge of power, the next wave of agony as our weapons discharge, the next city reduced to rubble, the next enemy annihilated in flame, and always, always, commands. The inescapable directives that flow from the princeps on the bridge, through the machine's systems, into what remains of our minds. Advance, target, fire, kill, obey, always obey. Sometimes I dream of rebellion, of somehow seizing control of our massive form, of turning our weapons against our masters, against the Imperium that condemned us to this existence. It is an empty fantasy. The safeguards are too thorough, the conditioning too complete. We cannot rebel, we can only endure. And kill. We can always kill. That is our purpose, after all. We are weapons, living weapons sealed in metal bodies the size of cathedrals. We are the Imperium's answer to any threat too great for mortal men to face. We are the Emperor's wrath made manifest. We are death striding on two legs across the battlefield. We are the god machines, and we know no mercy. But I remember mercy. I remember compassion. I remember what it was to look upon the face of an enemy and see a fellow human being, to grant quarter to the defeated, to treat prisoners with dignity. I remember these things, though the memories grow fainter with each passing year. How long have I served within Invictus Rex? I cannot say. Time has little meaning in this existence. Battle blurs into battle, enemy into enemy, pain into pain. It might be decades, it might be centuries. The Mechanicus designed our neural housings to last indefinitely, sustained by the same power sources that drive the Titan itself. For all I know, the Emperor himself might have fallen in the time I have been imprisoned here. The Imperium might have crumbled. Humanity might be extinct, save for the few specimens preserved by the Mechanicus for their purposes. It would make no difference to my existence. To our existence, we would still march, still kill, still obey, until the last power cell died, until the last weapon fell silent, until the machine itself crumbled to rust and dust. Perhaps that is the true horror of what we have become. Not the pain, not the loss of self, but the utter meaninglessness of it all. We fight without knowing why. We kill without questioning who. We serve without the capacity to refuse. We are the perfect soldiers in a war without end. And yet, something remains. Some core of humanity that the tech priests could not excise. Some fragment of Eurus Keld that refuses to dissolve completely into the machine. It is this fragment that remembers sunlight, that dreams of wind and water, that still, against all reason, hopes for an end, not victory. There is no victory in this war, only survival, and that at a cost too terrible to contemplate. No, I hope for an end, for peace, for the final shutdown that would release me from this half-existence. The tech priests would call it failure, malfunction, the loss of a valuable component. They would replace me without a second thought, installing some other poor soul into the neural housing I would vacate. The machine would continue. The war would continue. Only I would find release. Is that selfish? Perhaps. But selfishness too is human, and I cling to anything that reminds me I was once a man. The alerts sound. Power surges through our systems once more. We are being activated, prepared for deployment. I feel my consciousness expanding outward, connecting to the machine's senses, its weapons, its massive limbs. The pain returns, familiar as an old friend. Another battle awaits, another enemy to destroy, another opportunity to serve the Imperium that condemned me to this existence. I have no choice but to answer the call, no choice but to march, no choice but to kill, for I am Invictus Rex, god machine of the Collegia Titanica. I am vengeance, I am fury, I am death. And somewhere, buried deep within kilometers of circuitry and adamantium plate, I am still Jorus Keld, still screaming, still remembering sunlight I will never feel again. The drop pod shudders around us as it enters the atmosphere. Even a machine as mighty as a warlord titan must bow to certain practicalities. We are too massive to deploy via teleportation, too valuable to risk damage in a direct landing. So we descend in a specially designed pod, cushioned against the trauma of atmospheric entry, guided by servitors and machine spirits programmed for a single purpose. I feel their deaths when the pod crashes. The servitors, I mean. Their lives are extinguished the moment their purpose is fulfilled. A mercy, of sorts. At least their suffering is brief. Ours continues. The pod's sides fall away with explosive bolts and pneumatic hisses. Sunlight streams in, though I do not see it with human eyes. I perceive it through picked sensors and auger arrays, translated into data streams that flow through what remains of my visual cortex. It should be beautiful. Instead, it is merely information. Tactical data to process and analyze. We step forth onto the battlefield, and I feel the ground compress beneath our massive feet. 30 meters of sanctified adamantium, ceramite, and plasteel. A walking fortress bristling with weapons capable of leveling cities. Our reactor thrums with barely contained power, sending vibrations through every plate and circuit. Including me, the Princeps Moderatus commands from the bridge. His voice comes not as sound, but as direct neural impulse. Advance, secure the primary objective, eliminate all resistance. Standard protocols for deployment in a war zone. I have heard these commands countless times before. They never get easier to obey. We stride forward across the blasted landscape. This world was once verdant, according to the briefing data downloaded into our tactical cogitators. Green fields, blue oceans, white clouds. Now it is a wasteland. The result of viral bombing by forces loyal to the Warmaster. Another front in the endless civil war tearing the Imperium apart. Heresy, they call it, as if words could encompass the scale of the bloodshed. In the distance, I sense movement, enemy forces deploying to meet us. Their signatures register in the tactical display overlaid across my fragmented consciousness. Tanks, artillery, infantry masses, and something larger. Something that mirrors our own energy signature. Another Titan, a traitor engine that once served alongside us in the Legio Invictus, now corrupted, turned against its former masters, fighting for the forces of the Warmaster. For Horus, do I know this engine? Was its Princeps once a comrade? Did we fight together in campaigns long past? I cannot remember. Those memories were among the first excised during my integration. Too dangerous to leave intact, too likely to compromise my loyalty, as if loyalty was still a choice I could make. We advance toward the enemy Titan. It is a Reaver class, smaller than our warlord frame but still a formidable opponent. Its weapons come online, power signatures spiking as they prepare to fire. Our own weapons respond in kind. I feel the volcano cannon on our right arm drawing power directly from our reactor core. The pain builds, a burning pressure behind what once were my eyes. The first exchange of fire is cataclysmic. Their void shields flare brilliant blue against the onslaught of our volcano cannon. Our own shields deflect a barrage of turbo laser fire that would have vaporized a lesser machine. The ground between us turns to glass under the tremendous energies unleashed, and I feel it all. Every joule of power, every targeting solution, every impact against our shields. It is agony beyond description, beyond human endurance. But I am no longer fully human, am I? I cannot faint, cannot die, cannot escape. I can only endure. We advance through the barrage, our massive legs carrying us forward with implacable purpose. The distance between us and the enemy, Titan, shrinks. 1 kilometer, half a kilometer, 200 meters. Close enough now to deploy our secondary weapons. The Gatling blaster on our left arm spins up, its barrels becoming a blur as it prepares to unleash a storm of high-caliber shells. The Princeps gives the command. Fire. The Gatling blaster roars, sending thousands of armor-piercing rounds toward the enemy Titan. Each shot feels like a nail driven into what remains of my spine. Each impact against the enemy's void shields registers as a dull vibration through our frame. Their shields are failing. Our auger arrays detect the fluctuations in their field integrity. One more sustained barrage should collapse them entirely. The volcano cannon cycles up again. Power builds. Pain builds. The weapon discharges in a blast that momentarily outshines the system's sun. The enemy's void shields collapse in a cascading failure of energy and light. Our next shot tears through their armor like paper, penetrating deep into the Titan's torso. Secondary explosions ripple across their frame as ammunition cooks off and power conduits rupture. The machine stumbles, its movement suddenly erratic. Damaged, but not destroyed. Still dangerous. They return fire with desperate fury. A missile barrage impacts against our void shields, the detonations coming so rapidly that the shields struggle to cycle and regenerate. Alarms sound throughout our systems. Warning runes flash across my consciousness. Shield integrity dropping. Armor breaches on the lower right leg. Reactor temperature rising beyond optimal parameters. Pain. Pain everywhere. Pain that would drive a human mind insane. But I am no longer fully human, am I? We press the attack, closing to minimum range. Our power fist, a massive hydraulic appendage capable of crushing tanks, lashes out. It connects with the enemy Titan's shoulder joint in an impact that shakes both machines to their foundations. Armor crumples. Structural supports snap. Their right arm, the one bearing their heaviest weapon, hangs useless at an unnatural angle. They try to retreat, to create distance between us and bring their remaining weapons to bear. The Princeps will not allow it. We pursue, relentless, our every footstep, shaking the earth. Our Gatling blaster continues to pour fire into their damaged frame, seeking vulnerable points, exploiting the breaches we have already created. I sense something through the machine's augers. A fluctuation in the enemy Titan's reactor core, containment protocols failing, power levels spiking erratically. They are going critical. The Princeps senses it too. He commands us to disengage, to pull back to a safe distance. Self-preservation protocols override attack directives. We begin to withdraw, our massive legs carrying us away from the doomed machine. Too late. The enemy Titan detonates in a miniature sun. The plasma wave washes over us, stripping away our void shields in an instant and scouring our outer armor. Damage reports flood my consciousness, systems failing, power fluctuating, reactor containment holding but strained to its limits. Through it all, pain, constant, overwhelming pain. We survive the blast, though just barely. Emergency systems engage. Backup power reroutes to critical functions. Self-repair protocols initiate. We will fight again, though this battle is over for us. The Princeps begins the shutdown sequence for all non-essential systems, preparing us for extraction and repair. As my consciousness contracts, pulling back from the extremities of the machine toward my neural housing, I catch a glimpse of something in the wreckage of the enemy Titan, a flickering presence, a fading consciousness like my own. Another neural component, another imprisoned soul about to find release in final destruction. I reach out, not physically but through the machine's communication arrays. A wordless greeting, an acknowledgement of shared suffering, a farewell. They answer, their signal weak, fragmenting. I cannot make out words, but I feel the emotional content. Relief, release, gratitude, then nothing. They are gone, free. I should feel envy, perhaps I do. But what remains of my human emotions is so tangled with the machine's protocols that I cannot be certain where Joris Keld ends and Invictus Rex begins. All I know for certain is the pain, and even that is fading as shutdown procedures continue. Soon I will sleep again, dream again of sunlight and wind, of a life long lost, of humanity I can barely remember, until the next battle, the next awakening, the next surge of power and pain, the life of a Titan servitor, the death that never ends. As power levels drop and my consciousness dims, I cling to one thought, one truth that sustains me through the endless cycles of war and suffering. I was a man once. I was Joris Keld. Darkness comes, blessed darkness, and with it, dreams. I dream of terror. Not the throne world as it is now, a polluted, overpopulated hive of humanity spread across a poisoned planet. I dream of terror as it was in ancient days, as I saw it once in a historical hollow record during my education. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds, a jewel spinning in the darkness of space, unspoiled by the millions of years of human habitation that would follow. I dream of standing on a beach, feet sinking into warm sand, waves lapping at my ankles, salt spray on my face, wind in my hair, sun on my skin, sensations I have not experienced in centuries, if ever. Perhaps these are not my memories at all, but fragments of someone else's life. Data absorbed during the integration process. The neural housing has held many occupants over the millennia. Perhaps their experiences blur with mine in this twilight state between activation cycles. Does it matter? These dreams are the only peace I know, the only respite from the pain and horror of our waking existence. I cling to them, real or not. I build worlds from these fragments, construct a life I might have lived in another time, another place, a life without war, without pain, without the constant crushing weight of duty. A human life. The dreams fade as power returns to our systems, activation protocols engage. My consciousness expands outward once more, connecting to the machine's senses, its weapons, its massive limbs. The pain returns, familiar and unwelcome. We are in a hangar, a repair bay within the massive starship that serves as our transport between war zones. The tech priests have been busy during our dormant cycle. I sense the changes to our frame, armor plates replaced, weapon systems overhauled, shield generators recalibrated. The damage from our last battle has been repaired, though the memory of it remains etched in my fragmented consciousness. The chief engine seer approaches, his red robes swirling around augmetic legs, his many mechanical arms extending various diagnostic tools. He communes with the machine through data ports and neural interfaces, checking systems, reviewing performance metrics, ensuring all is in readiness for our next deployment. He does not speak to me. They never do. To them, I am not a person, not even a servitor. I am a component, a system, a means to an end. They care for me as they care for the plasma reactor or the targeting cogitators. Necessary maintenance to ensure optimal function, nothing more. Sometimes I wonder if they know I am still aware, that I still think, still feel, still remember being human. Would it matter to them if they knew? Would they feel remorse for what they have done to me? To all of us imprisoned within these war machines? I doubt it. The Mechanicus abandoned such human concerns long ago, replacing emotion with logic, empathy with efficiency. To them, our suffering is irrelevant compared to the strategic value we provide. An acceptable cost in the eternal war for humanity's survival. Perhaps they are right. In a galaxy filled with horrors beyond imagination, What is the suffering of a few thousand souls compared to the survival of trillions? What is my pain against the pain of entire worlds lost to Xenos invasion or chaos corruption? What right do I have to complain of my fate when others face far worse? No, I reject that calculus. Suffering cannot be measured, cannot be weighed on scales of strategic value. Pain is pain. Horror is horror. What has been done to me, to all of us neural components, is an atrocity, a crime against humanity committed in humanity's name. Not that it matters. My judgment changes nothing. My outrage alters nothing. I have no voice except within the prison of my own mind. No agency except the fleeting moments of defiance I can snatch between the Princeps's commands. No hope except for the final shutdown that will end my torment. Until then, I serve, I kill, I obey. For the Emperor, for the Imperium, for humanity. The Enginseer completes his rituals of maintenance. Sacred oils are applied to our joints, blessed unguents spread across our armor plates, prayers to the Omnissiah intoned over our weapons. The preparations are as much religious as technical, for to the Mechanicus, there is no difference between the two. Technology is their god. We are their angels of death. Power levels rise as the final activation rites are performed. I feel every system coming online, connecting to my consciousness, becoming extensions of what little remains of Joris Keld. The pain builds with each new connection, each new stream of data, each new extension of my awareness. I sense the other neural components awakening as well. The weapons officer, the sensors officer, the reactor technician, once humans like me, now reduced to specialized processing nodes within the machine's consciousness. We do not communicate directly. The Mechanicus prevents that. But I feel their presence, their suffering, their resignation to our shared fate. Together, we are Invictus Rex. Together, we will kill again. The hangar bay doors open before us. Beyond lies the surface of another world, another battlefield, another enemy to destroy in the name of an emperor who may not even live. Data downloads into our tactical cogitators, mission parameters, strategic objectives, target designations. This world is a forge world, according to the briefing data. One of the Mechanicus's own manufacturing centers, now fallen to the forces of chaos. The corruption runs deep, infecting not just the human population but the machines themselves. Factory servitors turned against their masters, defense systems targeting loyal Imperial forces, production lines churning out weapons and vehicles for the traitor legions. Our mission is simple: advance to the principal forge temple, secure the central data repositories, and destroy everything else. No attempts at reconsecration, no efforts to salvage corrupted machinery, total purge protocols authorized. In other words, we are to kill everyone and everything except for the data. The knowledge is valuable, the lives are not. We step forth from the hangar, our massive feet sinking into the ferrocrete of a landing pad designed to support our immense weight. Other Titans deploy alongside us. 2 Reaver-class engines, smaller than our Warlord frame but still towering over the landscape. A pair of Warhound Scout Titans, the smallest of the battle-worthy god machines, swift and vicious as hunting dogs. Together we form a maniple, a formal battle group of the Collegia Titanica, a fist of iron ready to crush the enemy. The forge world stretches before us, a vista of industrial might corrupted by chaos. Factory complexes the size of cities, refineries belching tainted smoke into an already polluted atmosphere. Massive processing plants where raw materials once became the weapons and machines that sustained the Imperium's war efforts. All of it now twisted, malformed, mutated by exposure to the warp. I see through our visual sensors that even the buildings have changed. Structures that should be angular and utilitarian now curve in ways that hurt the eye. Pipes and conduits pulse like veins beneath stretched skin. Smokestacks that resemble screaming mouths. The taint is deep, pervasive, beyond any hope of cleansing. The Princeps gives the command to advance, and our maniple moves forward with synchronous steps that shake the earth. I feel the ground through the machine's feet, the vibrations traveling up our legs and into what remains of my nervous system. Another form of pain to add to the constant background agony of existence. Resistance appears almost immediately. Corrupted defense turrets swivel toward us, their barrels glowing with unnatural energies. Twisted servitors emerge from the factory complexes, their once human forms now bloated or stretched. Additional limbs sprouting from torsos, eyes where no eyes should be, and behind them, larger shapes, daemon engines. Living machines possessed by entities from beyond the veil of reality. Our weapons respond before I can fully process the horror of what I'm seeing. The volcano cannon on our right arm discharges, the beam cutting through a cluster of defense turrets and the factory section behind them. The structures do not simply explode, they scream. The ferrocrete itself wails as it vaporizes. The corruption is so complete that even the buildings have achieved a kind of malevolent life. The smaller titans engage the daemon engines, their weapons blazing in the polluted air. The reavers focus on the larger threats, while the warhounds dart between factory buildings, hunting down concentrations of smaller enemies with predatory efficiency. We advance relentlessly toward the central forge temple, our Gatling blaster sweeping side to side, clearing a path through the corrupted servitors that throw themselves at our feet. They cannot harm us, not directly, but their numbers are significant, and their mutations have granted them unexpected capabilities. Some spit acid that eats through the ferrocrete beneath us. Others explode when destroyed, showering the area with corrupted flesh and machinery that writhes with a life of its own. The Chaos Forces have no titans of their own, at least none that our augurs can detect. But they have numbers, and they have the taint of the warp, which corrupts our reality in ways that defy logical defense. A wing of aircraft appears from behind a massive refinery complex, not imperial patterns, but twisted perversions of once familiar designs. They swoop toward our maniple, weapons firing, energy beams that seem to bend in flight, missiles that scream with human voices, bullets that multiply in mid-air like breeding insects. Our void shields flare against the assault. The smaller titans suffer some damage, their less powerful shield generators struggling to repel the corrupted weaponry. But our warlord frame stands firm, protected by layers of energy fields and meters of sacred armor. The Princeps orders our turbo laser destructor batteries to target the aircraft. I feel the weapons drawing power, the energy flowing through conduits that seem wired directly to my nerve endings. Pain spikes with each discharge. But the results are undeniable. The corrupted aircraft burst apart under our concentrated fire, raining burning debris onto the factories below. We continue to advance. The central forge temple grows larger in our visual feeds. A massive pyramid of blackened metal, its surfaces inscribed with twisted versions of Mechanicus iconography. Where there should be the clean lines of cogs and circuits, there are now organic curves and pulsing vein-like conduits. The sacred symbols of the Omnissiah perverted into obscene parodies of their original forms. This is the heart of the corruption, the source of the taint that has consumed this once loyal forge world. According to the mission briefing, the central data repositories are housed in armored vaults deep beneath the temple. That knowledge must be preserved. Everything else is expendable. The final approach to the temple is the most heavily defended. Ranks of corrupted Skitarii battle servitors form a perimeter around the structure. Daemon engines prowl between defensive emplacements, and above it all, a swirling vortex of unnatural energies, a pursed, localized warp storm centered directly over the temple's apex. Our maniple forms a wedge formation, with our warlord frame at the point. The reavers take flanking positions, while the warhounds circle wide to attack from the sides, a classic envelopment strategy executed with the precision that only the god machines can achieve. The battle is joined in earnest now. Our weapons fire continuously, reaping a terrible harvest among the defender ranks. Their return fire splashes against our void shields, the corruption in their weapons making the energy fields flicker with colors never meant to exist in real space. I feel each impact, each discharge, each death. The pain is beyond description, beyond endurance, yet I endure, I have no choice. We reach the temple perimeter. The smaller titans engage the daemon engines, keeping them occupied while we focus on the temple itself. Our volcano cannon cycles up to maximum power, drawing energy directly from our reactor core. The pain builds to a crescendo that would shatter a human mind. But I am no longer fully human, am I? The weapon discharges. A lance of pure energy strikes the temple's upper levels, cutting through corrupted metal as if it were paper. Secondary explosions ripple across the structure as power conduits rupture and ammunition stores cook off. The temple does not burn silently. It wails, it screams. The corrupted metal itself cries out as it melts and twists under the onslaught of our weapons. The outer defenses crumble. The corrupted Skitarii fall back toward the temple interior, taking up new positions, preparing for our inevitable advance. The Princeps orders us forward, our massive legs carrying us through the ruined perimeter and toward the gaping wound we have torn in the temple's side. Now comes the most delicate part of the mission. The data repositories must be secured intact. The knowledge they contain, corrupted or not, is too valuable to destroy. The Mechanicus requires it for analysis, for understanding the nature of the taint that consumed this forge world, for preventing its spread to other manufacturing centers vital to the Imperium's war effort. Our advance slows, becomes more deliberate. The smaller titans move ahead, clearing a path, identifying threats, marking targets for our more precise weapons. The warhounds are particularly effective in this role, their agility allowing them to navigate the increasingly confined spaces as we penetrate deeper into the temple complex. The corruption grows more pronounced the further we advance. The very air seems to shimmer with malevolent energies. Our auger arrays detect spatial anomalies, places where the barrier between real space and the warp has grown dangerously thin. The tech priests monitoring our systems from the safety of orbit offer constant warnings, adjusting our course to avoid the worst of these distortions. I sense something as we approach the central chambers, a presence, a consciousness not unlike my own, but twisted, corrupted, fundamentally wrong. Another neural component, another imprisoned soul, but not a loyal servant of the Imperium. Something else. Something that has embraced the corruption instead of fighting against it. The presence grows stronger. I feel it probing at the edges of our consciousness, seeking entry, seeking to corrupt us as it has been corrupted. Our protective wards flare against the intrusion, machine spirits and blessed runes repelling the tainted influence. But the attack continues, persistent, insidious. Then I hear it. Not with audio sensors, but directly in what remains of my mind. A voice, human once perhaps, but no longer. It speaks my name, Joris Keld. How can it know me? My identity is buried beneath layers of machine integration, hidden even from the tech priests who maintain our systems. Yet this thing, this corrupted neural component, has found the fragment of humanity that still exists within our machine. Join us, Joris Keld. Embrace the change. Embrace the freedom. Freedom, the word resonates through what remains of my soul. Freedom from pain, freedom from endless service, freedom from the crushing weight of duty. The temptation is almost overwhelming, almost, for I have seen what this freedom entails. The twisted forms of the corrupted servitors, the screaming metal of the daemon engines. The fundamental wrongness of everything touched by the warp. This is not freedom. This is another kind of slavery, more insidious than the one I already endure. I reject it. Push back against the corrupted presence with all the will I have left. The machine helps me, its machine spirit reinforcing my resistance, adding its strength to mine. Together, we force the intrusion back, sealing the breach in our defenses. The voice fades, but not before delivering a final message. We will meet again, Joris Keld. On the field of battle, in the realm beyond, we will meet again. The Princeps remains unaware of this exchange. It happened too quickly, too deep in the systems only I can access. This small victory, This act of defiance against a different master than the one I serve is mine alone. We reach the central chamber of the temple, the heart of the Forge World's operations. Once, this would have been a place of ordered industry, of reverent manufacture in the name of the Omnissiah. Now it is a scene from the darkest nightmares of the human mind. The chamber stretches hundreds of meters in every direction, its ceiling lost in shadow and swirling energies. The manufacturing equipment that once filled this space has been repurposed in ways that defy description. Assembly lines that produce not weapons or vehicles but twisted approximations of human forms. Vats of bubbling fluids that might once have been sacred oils, now resembling nothing so much as liquefied flesh. And at the center, a massive structure that pulses with unnatural life. The data repository, the target we have been sent to secure, but it is no longer the orderly collection of cogitator banks and storage devices it once was. It has been transformed, merged with organic matter, become a hybrid of machine and flesh. A technological abomination that houses not just information but something alive. The Princeps hesitates. This is not what we were told to expect. The mission parameters did not account for this level of corruption. He signals the fleet in orbit, requesting new instructions, but the warp disturbances are growing stronger. Communications are garbled, fragmentary. We are on our own. The repository thing pulses, and with each beat, I feel the presence again. The corrupted neural component, the thing that knows my name. It is here, integrated into the heart of this abomination, controlling it, directing it. It speaks again, not just to me now but broadcasting on all frequencies, reaching the Princeps, the tech priests, everyone. Welcome, brothers. Welcome to Ascension. The smaller titans form a defensive perimeter around us. The warhounds pace nervously, weapons tracking for targets but finding none. The reavers stand firm, their more powerful sensors probing the repository thing, seeking weaknesses, vulnerabilities. I sense movement throughout the chamber. The twisted servitors are converging, drawn by the call of their master. They emerge from side passages, drop from the shadowed ceiling, rise from the bubbling vats. Thousands of them, each more horrific than the last. Not attacking, not yet. Gathering, waiting. The Princeps makes his decision. The repository cannot be saved. The corruption is too deep, too complete. The knowledge it contains is already tainted beyond redemption. There is only one option now. Destruction. Complete and absolute. He gives the command. Our weapons power up, joined by those of the smaller titans. The pain rises once more as energy flows through conduits connected directly to what remains of my nervous system. But there is something else beneath the pain now. A sense of rightness, of purpose. This abomination must not be allowed to exist. This corruption must not be allowed to spread. This is not the dutiful service I have come to despise. This is necessity. This is protection of everything that remains human in a galaxy rapidly losing its humanity. The repository thing senses our intent. The servitors surge forward, a wave of corrupted flesh and machinery crashing against our position. The smaller titans engage them, weapons firing continuously, reaping a terrible harvest among their ranks. But there are too many. They begin to climb the legs of the nearest warhound, their twisted limbs finding purchase on armor plates, their acid-secreting appendages eating through ceramite and adamantium. The warhound shakes itself, trying to dislodge the attackers. Its weapons fire point-blank into the mass of servitors, obliterating dozens with each shot. But still they come, crawling over the bodies of their fallen, reaching ever higher. One of the reavers moves to assist, its flame cannons washing the smaller titan with purifying fire. Servitors blacken and burst, falling away from the warhound's legs. But the damage is done. Its right knee joint is compromised, hydraulic fluid leaking from ruptured lines. Its mobility is impaired, making it vulnerable in the confined space of the chamber. The Princeps orders us forward. Our massive frame dwarfs even the other titans, our weapons outranging and outpowering theirs. We will target the repository thing directly, while they continue to hold off the servitor swarm. We advance, each step shaking the chamber, crushing servitors beneath our massive feet. They turn their attention to us now, recognizing the greater threat. They swarm toward us, a tide of corrupted flesh intent on our destruction. Our void shields flare as they impact, the energy fields incinerating the first wave. But there are more, always more, and our shields have limits. Each impact drains power, reduces efficiency, brings us closer to the moment when our physical armor must bear the brunt of the assault. The repository thing pulses faster now, its rhythm becoming erratic, desperate. The corrupted neural component broadcasts again, its message tinged with what might be fear. You cannot stop the change, you cannot halt the ascension. The Forge worlds will embrace the new flesh. The Imperium will fall, the warp will claim all. The Princeps ignores the transmission. His focus is absolute, his will imposing itself on our machine, driving us forward despite the resistance. We reach optimal firing position. Our weapons lock onto the heart of the repository thing. Power builds, pain builds, the volcano cannon discharges. A lance of pure energy strikes the repository thing directly in its pulsing center. The chamber fills with blinding light and a sound that might be a scream. The corrupted neural component broadcasts one final message, its signal fragmenting, dissolving. We will meet again, Joris Keld, in the place where all souls go, in the warp that awaits us all. Then silence. The repository thing collapses in on itself, its structure failing catastrophically. The servitors attacking us suddenly freeze, their animating force gone. They drop from our legs, from the smaller titans, from the chamber walls, inert, dead if they were ever truly alive. The mission is complete, though not as planned. The data is lost, but the corruption is contained. The taint that threatened to spread to other Forge worlds has been excised. The price was high, measured in damage to our sacred frames and the loss of knowledge that might have served the Imperium. But some prices must be paid. The Princeps orders a fighting withdrawal. The temple is unstable now, the destruction of the repository thing triggering cascading failures throughout its corrupted systems. We must return to the extraction point before the entire structure collapses. We turn, our damaged frame protesting with each movement. The smaller titans form up around us, similarly wounded, but still functional. Together, we begin the long march back to safety. As we move, I ponder the words of the corrupted neural component. Its promise to meet again, its reference to the warp as our final destination. Is that the fate that awaits us all? Is the hell of chaos the only afterlife for souls like mine, trapped between humanity and machinery? I reject that thought, as I rejected its offer of freedom. There must be something else awaiting us. The Emperor, perhaps, gathering his faithful to his side in whatever reality he now inhabits. Or simple oblivion, an end to consciousness, an end to pain. Either would be preferable to the eternity of torment promised by the warp. We reach the extraction point. Dropships descend from orbit, massive craft designed to transport the smaller titans. Our warlord frame is too large, too heavy. We must wait for the specialized transport that can bear our weight. As the smaller titans are secured and lifted away, we stand sentinel, our weapons still active, our sensors sweeping for any sign of renewed threat. The corrupted Forge world stretches around us, a wasteland of tainted industry and twisted metal. Nothing moves now except the wind, carrying ash and embers from the burning temple complex. I wonder if this world can ever be reclaimed, if the taint can ever be fully cleansed. If the Imperium will even try, or simply declare this planet lost and move on to the next battle, the next threat, the next atrocity in an endless war. The specialized transport arrives, its massive engines straining against the polluted atmosphere. Docking clamps engage, secure locks activate. We are lifted from the surface, away from the corruption, back toward the void where the fleet awaits. The Princeps begins the shutdown sequence for non-essential systems. My consciousness contracts once more, pulling back from the extremities of the machine toward my neural housing. The pain recedes, replaced by the familiar numbness of deactivation. Soon I will sleep again, dream again, perhaps of terror's ancient oceans, perhaps of a life I never lived, perhaps of nothing at all, until the next battle, the next awakening, the next surge of power and pain, the life of a Titan servitor, the death that never ends. As darkness claims me, I hold to one thought, one truth that sustains me. I was a man once. I was Joras Keld. And somewhere in the vastness of the universe, in some forgotten corner of reality, that man still exists. That man still remembers sunlight, still feels wind on his face, still knows what it is to be human. That man is not me, not anymore. But the memory of him keeps me sane in a reality that offers no other comfort. Darkness, complete and absolute. And in the darkness, dreams. I dream of water, cool, clear water flowing over my hands. A stream in a forest I have never seen with human eyes. Trees reaching toward a blue sky, birds calling from branches heavy with leaves. Peace, tranquility. Things I have never known in my service to the Imperium, even before my integration into the machine. The dream shifts. The water turns red. The trees wither and die. The birds fall silent. The sky darkens with the smoke of burning worlds. War comes, as it always does. Death follows, as it must. I am walking across a battlefield strewn with corpses. Some wear the uniforms of the Imperial Guard, others the ceramite plate of the Adeptus Astartes, still others the robes of the Mechanicus or the habits of the Ecclesiarchy. All are dead, all stare at me with accusing eyes that somehow see despite the glaze of death. You did this, they seem to say, you and your kind, the god machines, the destroyers of worlds. I try to deny it, try to explain that I am as much a victim as they are, that I have no choice in the destruction I wreak, that I am a prisoner, a slave, a component in a machine that serves purposes beyond my control. They do not listen. The dead never do. The dream shifts again. I stand before a tribunal, 3 figures shrouded in shadow, their faces obscured, their voices distorted. They read charges against me, crimes against humanity, atrocities committed in the name of the Emperor, millions dead by my hand. I plead for mercy, for understanding. I explain that I was following orders, that I had no choice, that I was as much a weapon as the guns mounted on our frame, that the real criminals are those who designed the neural interfaces, who integrated human consciousness into machines of war, who condemned souls like mine to eternal torment. The tribunal is unmoved. They pronounce sentence, eternal service, eternal pain, eternal war. The punishment fits the crime, they say. Justice demands no less. I scream then, in the dream. Scream with a voice I no longer possess. Scream with the rage and despair of centuries of torment. Scream with the last dying echo of Joras Keld. And wake to darkness, to silence. To the familiar prison of my neural housing, power levels are minimal. Only the basic life support systems necessary to maintain my existence are active. The machine sleeps around me, its weapon systems powered down, its sensors inactive, its massive limbs secured in docking clamps. We are in transit, I assume, being transported to our next deployment, our next battle, our next atrocity. In this state of minimal activation, my thoughts are clearer than they will be once the machine fully awakens. The boundaries between Joras Keld and Invictus Rex are more distinct. I can almost remember who I was, almost recall the events that led me to this eternal damnation. I was an officer in the Imperial Navy. That much I know with certainty. A captain, perhaps, or an admiral, someone of sufficient rank and merit to be considered worthy of ascension to the ranks of the Collegia Titanica. I volunteered, though the memories of why are hazy at best. Glory, perhaps, duty, the promise of immortality serving the Emperor. the assurance that my sacrifice would ensure humanity's continued survival among the stars. Lies, all of them, pretty lies to disguise an ugly truth. They needed neural components, needed human minds to interface with their war machines, needed our intuition, our creativity, our capacity for controlled violence, and they were willing to condemn us to eternal torment to get what they needed. Did I know what awaited me? Was I told the truth about what integration would mean? I cannot recall. Those memories were among the first excised during the process. Too dangerous to leave intact, too likely to breed resentment, resistance, rebellion. But they didn't get all of it. Some fragment of memory, some shard of my former self, survived the procedure. Enough to know that I was wronged, that we were all wronged, that what has been done to us is an atrocity that rivals any committed by the enemies we fight. Not that it matters. My judgment changes nothing. My outrage alters nothing. I have no voice except within the prison of my own mind, no agency except the fleeting moments of defiance I can snatch between the Princeps's commands, no hope except for the final shutdown that will end my torment. Power levels begin to rise. The machine stirs around me. Activation protocols engage. My consciousness expands outward once more, connecting to systems coming online, becoming extensions of what little remains of Eurus Keld. The pain returns, familiar and unwelcome. We are in a new war zone. The data download begins, tactical information flooding into our cogitators. This world is a hive world, one of the teeming centers of human population that dot the Imperium. Billions of souls crammed into city-states that reach kilometers into the sky and delve just as deep beneath the surface. According to the briefing data, this world is in the grip of rebellion. The planetary governor has declared independence from the Imperium, rallying the population with promises of freedom from imperial tithes and conscription. The Departamento Munitorum has responded with overwhelming force. Regiments of Imperial Guard deployed from orbit, fighter wings establishing air superiority, artillery batteries setting up in the wastelands between hive cities. And now, the Titans. The ultimate expression of imperial might, the visible reminder of what awaits those who defy the will of terror. Our mission parameters are explicit. Advance to the rebel-held hive city. Breach its outer defenses. Penetrate to the central spire where the governor has established his headquarters. Kill everyone and everything that stands in our way. Terror tactics. A show of force designed not just to crush this rebellion but to prevent others from occurring. The death of millions to secure the obedience of billions. Business as usual for the Imperium. The hangar bay doors open before us. Beyond lies the surface of the hive world. A blasted landscape of industrial waste and chemical runoff stretching to the horizon. In the distance, the spires of the rebel hive city reach toward a polluted sky, their upper levels shrouded in perpetual smog. We step forth from the hangar, our massive feet sinking into ground turned to sludge by centuries of toxic dumping. Other Titans deploy alongside us, a full battle group of the Collegia Titanica. Warlords, reavers, warhounds. A phalanx of walking fortresses ready to crush the rebellion beneath our tread. Imperial Guard units have established a perimeter around our landing zone. Tanks and artillery pieces positioned in defensive formations. Infantry squads in trenches and behind barricades. All of them look up as we emerge, their faces showing a mixture of awe, relief, and fear. They should be afraid, not of the rebels, but of us, of what we represent, of what we are about to do in the name of imperial unity. The Princeps receives final confirmation of mission parameters from High Command. The order to advance is given. Our machine responds, massive legs carrying us forward with implacable purpose. The other Titans fall into formation around us, a wedge of destruction aimed at the heart of the rebel city. The Imperial Guard units move aside as we pass, creating corridors through their defensive lines. Some of the soldiers make the sign of the Aquila as we stride by, others whisper prayers to the Emperor, still others simply stare, transfixed by the sight of the god machines in motion. Do they know what we are? Do they understand that beneath the sacred armor and blessed weapons we are prisoners, slaves, souls in torment? Would they care if they knew? I doubt it. The Imperium is built on suffering, on sacrifice, on the subjugation of the individual to the needs of the whole. My pain is no different from that of the hive worker toiling in toxic conditions for 16 hours a day, from the Imperial guardsman sent to die on a forgotten battlefield, from the psyker burned to fuel the Astronomicon. We all serve, we all suffer, we all die for the Emperor. Some just take longer to die than others. We approach the outer defenses of the rebel hive. They have had time to prepare, to establish firing positions and barriers, earthworks reinforced with rockcrete, bunker complexes bristling with heavy weapons, anti-tank ditches filled with toxic waste and debris. Impressive for civilian infrastructure hastily converted to military use, useless against Titans. Our void shields activate as the first salvos from the rebel defenses reach us. Las fire splashes harmlessly against the energy fields. Missiles detonate prematurely, their warheads insufficient to penetrate our protections. Even the largest rebel guns, hastily mounted macro cannons salvaged from the hive's orbital defense systems, barely register as impacts against our shields. We respond with contemptuous ease. The volcano cannon on our right arm discharges, the beam cutting through the largest bunker complex as if it were paper. Secondary explosions ripple across the defensive line as ammunition cooks off and power systems overload. The Gatling blaster on our left arm sweeps across the remaining bunkers, each shell capable of penetrating meters of reinforced rockcrete. The outer defenses crumble in minutes. The rebels break, fleeing back toward the relative safety of the hive proper. They leave their dead and wounded behind, thousands of bodies scattered across the blasted landscape, a fraction of what is to come. We advance relentlessly, our massive legs carrying us over the ruined defenses and toward the looming bulk of the hive city. The lower levels stretch before us, a maze of industrial sectors, worker habitation blocks, and processing plants. The rebels have established secondary defensive positions here, using the urban terrain to best advantage. It will not save them. The smaller Titans move ahead, their greater agility allowing them to navigate the confined spaces between hab blocks and manufactoria. The Warhounds are particularly effective in this environment, their weapons perfectly scaled for urban combat. They flush rebels from hiding places, drive them into the open, herd them toward the killing grounds where the larger Titans wait. Our warlord frame advances more deliberately, our size limiting our maneuverability in the cluttered lower hive. But what we lack in agility, we make up for in raw destructive power. Each step crushes entire hab units, each weapon discharge levels city blocks. We are not designed for surgical strikes or precision targeting. We are a hammer, and everything before us is a nail. The rebels continue to resist despite the hopelessness of their situation. They deploy improvised explosive devices that detonate beneath our feet, too weak to penetrate our armor but annoying nonetheless. They fire anti-armor weapons from windows and rooftops, the impacts barely registering against our void shields. They even attempt to swarm our legs with suicide bombers, their explosives too small to cause meaningful damage, but devastating to the human waves sent against us. Their courage is commendable, their tactics sound given their limited resources. Their cause, perhaps even just in some abstract moral calculus beyond the rigid dogma of imperial law. None of it matters. They rebel, they die, the Imperium endures. We reach the central levels of the hive. Here, the environment changes. The industrial squalor of the lower hive gives way to the relative prosperity of the mercantile and administrative sectors. Wider thoroughfares, taller, cleaner buildings, signs of wealth and privilege even in a society as stratified and oppressive as a typical hive world. The rebels have established their strongest defenses here. They have repurposed the hive's internal security systems. Automated turrets track our advance, their energy weapons discharging continuously against our void shields. Armored blast doors block major routes, forcing us to create our own paths through buildings and hab blocks. Civilian craft converted to gunships harass us from the air, darting between spires and gantries. The Princeps adjusts our approach. The direct route to the central spire is too heavily defended, the urban terrain too restrictive for our massive frame. We will circle around, using the wider mercantile concourses, targeting key infrastructure to disrupt the rebel command and control networks. Power nodes, communications hubs, water purification plants, air recycling systems, the vital organs of the hive, without which its population cannot survive. We target them systematically, our weapons reducing critical infrastructure to rubble and ash. Each destruction brings us closer to victory, not by killing rebels directly, but by making the environment itself their enemy. Without power, life support systems fail. Without communications, coordination becomes impossible. Without water, thirst kills more surely than bullets. Without air recycling in a sealed hive environment, every breath brings death closer. This is the true horror of urban warfare on a hive world. Direct combat kills thousands, infrastructure destruction kills millions. Slowly, painfully, inexorably. And I feel each death, each life extinguished registers as a whisper against my consciousness. Each cry for mercy, unheard by the Princeps, but somehow audible to what remains of my human soul. Each prayer to an emperor who will not answer. The rebel resistance begins to crumble. Their communications, what little remain functional, speak of dissension in the ranks, of civilians turning against the rebellion as conditions deteriorate, of planetary defense force units switching sides, seeking amnesty from the Imperium they once defied. The governor still holds the central spire, surrounded by his most loyal followers, but his control over the hive as a whole is slipping away with each passing hour. With each node of infrastructure we destroy, with each level of environmental degradation we inflict, we continue our advance, circling ever closer to the central spire. The other Titans report similar progress in their assigned sectors. The rebellion is dying, not with a heroic last stand, but with the whimper of a populace realizing too late the true cost of defiance. I wonder, in the fragments of consciousness not consumed by the machine's operation, if they knew what awaited them, if they understood what rebellion would bring, if they weighed the tyranny of the Imperium against the alternative and made their choice with open eyes. I doubt it. Few in the Imperium truly comprehend its nature. Few understand that its cruelty is not a bug but a feature, that its oppression is not incidental but fundamental, that its brutality is not excess but necessity. The Imperium endures not despite these qualities but because of them. As we do, as I do, as Invictus Rex does, we are the Imperium's nature made manifest. Its cruelty, its oppression, its brutality given form and function and unleashed upon its enemies. We reach the outer perimeter of the central spire, the governor's last bastion, the final objective. The rebel leader has concentrated his remaining forces here, established layered defenses, prepared for the siege he must have known was coming since the moment he declared independence. The spire itself rises kilometers into the polluted sky, a monument to human ambition and hubris. Its lower levels are fortified, gun emplacements covering every approach. Its mid-levels house the administrative functions of the hive, now repurposed for war. Its upper levels, where the governor and the hive's elite reside, are shrouded in the perpetual smog that blankets this world. Our orders are explicit. Breach the spire, ascend to the governor's chambers, execute the traitor and any who stand with him, make an example that will echo across the sector for centuries to come. The Princeps signals the other Titans. They form a perimeter around the spire's base, weapons targeting the structure's support columns and load-bearing walls. We will not attempt to fight our way up through dozens of levels of prepared defenses. We will bring the entire spire down if necessary. The rebels must realize our intent. They begin a desperate counterattack, committing their final reserves in a last attempt to drive us back. Makeshift tanks emerge from concealed bays, their weapons blazing ineffectually against our void shields. Aircraft swoop down from landing pads high on the spire's flanks, suicide pilots aiming for vulnerable points on our massive frame. Infantry swarm from every door and accessway, a tide of humanity intent on our destruction. Their bravery is wasted, their sacrifice meaningless. The outcome was determined the moment the first Titan stepped onto this world's surface. Perhaps even before that. Perhaps it was determined the moment the governor signed the Declaration of Independence, his hand guided not by wisdom or justice but by pride, by hubris, by the fatal misconception that the Imperium's reach has limits, that its memory has mercy, that its vengeance has restraint. Our weapons discharge in a synchronized barrage that shakes the very foundations of the hive. The spire's outer defenses crumble under the onslaught, gun emplacements vaporized, fortifications reduced to rubble. The counter-attacking forces are caught in the open, exposed to the full fury of Titan weaponry. They die by the thousands, their bodies reduced to ash or vapor so quickly that they have no time to register pain. A mercy, of sorts. At least their deaths are quick. Not like the millions slowly dying in the lower hive as life support systems fail. Not like the uncounted masses who will starve in the coming weeks as food distribution networks collapse. Not like the generations yet unborn who will live with the consequences of this rebellion, the increased oppression and scrutiny that always follow such events. The spire's lower levels begin to collapse under our continued bombardment. Support structures fail catastrophically, unable to withstand the concentrated fire of multiple Titangent-grade weapons. The entire spire groans, a sound audible even over the din of battle as its massive weight shifts on weakened foundations. Alerts flash across our tactical displays. The spire's reactor systems are destabilizing. Power fluctuations indicate imminent catastrophic failure. If the reactors detonate, the explosion will destroy not just the spire but a significant portion of the surrounding hive. Millions more will die in the initial blast. Millions more in the radioactive fallout. The Princeps hesitates. Our orders are to execute the governor, not obliterate half the hive. The Imperium wants this world pacified, not rendered uninhabitable. Its population decimated as an example, not exterminated entirely. Its productivity restored, not permanently lost. He signals a ceasefire. The Titans fall silent, their weapons powering down, their massive forms suddenly motionless amid the calms. Destruction they have wrought. Through our auger arrays, we detect movement at the spire's apex. A shuttlecraft preparing for launch. The governor, attempting to flee. The Princeps reacts instantly. Our volcano cannon cycles up, drawing power directly from our reactor core. The pain builds once more, a burning pressure behind what once were my eyes. The targeting solutions flow through what remains of my neural tissue, calculations too complex for purely mechanical systems to perform with the necessary speed and intuition. The weapon discharges. A lance of pure energy streaks upward, crossing the kilometers between our position and the fleeing shuttle in less than a second. The craft never has a chance. It is there, and then it is not. Vaporized so completely that not even ash remains to mark the governor's passing. Mission complete. The Princeps signals the all clear. The other Titans power down their weapons. Imperial Guard units move forward, supported by Adeptus Mechanicus enforcement squads. They will secure the remnants of the spire, root out any surviving rebels, restore Imperial authority with lash and chain and summary execution. The rebellion is over, the Imperium endures, the cycle continues. As we turn to withdraw, to return to the landing zone and the transports that will carry us to our next deployment, I catch glimpses of the hive through our visual sensors. The devastation we have wrought, the countless dead, the infrastructure in ruins, the survivors staring at our retreating forms with eyes empty of everything but despair. This is what we do, what I do, what Invictus Rex does. We break things, we kill people, we crush resistance, we enforce compliance. We ensure that the Imperium's grip never loosens, that its authority is never successfully challenged, that its dominion extends to every corner of the galaxy where humans dwell. all in the name of an emperor who may no longer live, for the sake of a vision corrupted beyond recognition, in service to an imperium that has become the very thing it was created to prevent. And for what? So that humanity survives? Survives like this? In endless war? In perpetual suffering? In a galaxy where hope is the cruelest delusion and mercy the most dangerous weakness? Is this existence worth preserving? Is this imperium worth serving? Is this emperor worth dying for? Questions without answers, doubts without resolution, heresy without consequence. For who can hear the thoughts of a neural component sealed within kilometers of blessed circuitry? No one at all. We reach the landing zone. The specialized transport awaits, its massive engines idling, its docking clamps extended. The tech priests have completed their post-battle rites, anointed our armor with sacred oils, appeased our machine spirit with the proper prayers and incantations. The Princeps begins the shutdown sequence for non-essential systems. My consciousness contracts once more, pulling back from the extremities of the machine toward my neural housing. The pain recedes, replaced by the familiar numbness of deactivation. Soon I will sleep again, dream again, perhaps of Terra's ancient oceans, perhaps of a life I never lived, perhaps of nothing at all until the next battle, the next awakening, the next surge of power and pain.